The Analyst, the new architect of the Matrix, managed to create an almost perfect simulation where most people do not wake up. They are manipulated to a point that they do not question their sanity or reality. But how did the Analyst manage to keep Neo in check for so long? In this video, we're going to talk about how Neo was controlled in the new Matrix. Welcome to Matrix Explained.
Welcome to the desert of the real.
If there is one character that we thought would never fall back into the clutches of the Matrix, it was Neo. He broke the cycle and changed the future for machines and humans. However, the Matrix Resurrections delivered a completely different Neo, manipulated and emotionally wrecked, a shadow of his former self. So how did Neo end up in this sorry state? It all started with Neo's sacrifice. The Analyst was there when Neo sacrificed himself to destroy Smith. He saw that Neo was the anomaly among anomalies and decided to take advantage of that. We are not sure if the Analyst was one of the machines that surrounded Neo, part of the nanobots that made up Deus Ex Machina, or even the platform that took Neo's body away. What is known is that after Neo died, the Analyst met with the highest ranking machines to convince them that they should resurrect Neo. After the machine's civil war, the Analyst takes over as the architect of the new simulation. He convinces the quote-unquote suits to rebuild Neo, but it wasn't cheap. Try as he might, he couldn't reactivate Neo's source code. That is until he understood that he needed to also rebuild Trinity. After both of them were brought back from the dead, the Analyst put them through multiple simulations to test how to generate the most amount of energy out of them. As we've mentioned in another video, this new, more potent form of energy doesn't come from Neo and Trinity's bodies, but from their emotions, which is why the Analyst subjected both of them to emotionally stressful situations so that their brains would go into overdrive. The Analyst feeds off the emotions of people connected to the Matrix. Now within the simulation, Neo was controlled with various methods. Before, the architect subjected the integral anomaly to two stages of control, inside the Matrix and outside the Matrix, in Zion. But the Analyst did not need to use the real world as part of his manipulation scheme. Instead, he plunged Neo into multiple simulations within the same simulation. In Matrix 4, Neo's digital self-image was of a bald middle-aged man. Neo sees himself as we do when he looks at himself in the mirror, but after he took the red pill, his appearance changed again. This means that Neo's DSI was changed several times. When the new Morpheus went to Neo's job, they were attacked by cops. It was chaos. People were dying all around Neo, and then the Analyst used the deja vu cat to change reality and made it seem that the attack never happened, that it was all inside Neo's head. This is the first method of conscious control that the Analyst used on Neo, to make him doubt his sanity. There is an important line of dialogue that Neo says that explains his mental situation. He tells the Analyst, "I felt either I'm having a mental breakdown again, or I'm living inside a computer-generated reality that has imprisoned me." Again, Neo lives between thoughts that confuse him. The Analyst was successful in making Neo doubt himself. Worse still, he took Neo's story and turned it into a work of fiction, a video game. He even left him with the name Thomas Anderson to add more confusion. Many people have claimed that the beginning of the Matrix Resurrections feels like a parody, a mockery of the previous trilogy, and they're right. The Matrix turned Neo and Trinity's adventures into a bad joke to increase Neo's suffering. Neo tells Bugs, "If this plug is actually real, that means they took my life, and they turned it into a video game. How am I doing? I don't know. I don't even know how to know." This is the most important part of the movie that many people are ignoring. They are only focusing on the parody side of the story. The answers as to why the Analyst made fun of Neo's life came when Bugs said, "If we don't know what's real, we can't resist. They took your story, something that meant so much to people like me, and turned it into something trivial." That's what the Matrix does. It weaponizes every idea, every dream, everything that's important to us. What better to bury truth than inside something as ordinary as a video game? The reason Neo's life became a spoof is that is what the system does to imprison you. It takes your dreams, your desires, what matters most to you, and trivializes it, turn them into a joke. It takes everything you thought was important, and he uses it against you. This is how the Analyst manipulated Neo. Any memories Neo might regain, he will associate them with a video game, and they won't seem that important. The next method of control is one that we talked about in a previous video, the handlers and the bots that are always close to Neo to manipulate and persuade him. These bots are effective because they use the trust and love that people have for their loved ones without them knowing that they are programs. Also, the Analyst used the medication antonafloxacin, which causes a negative reaction in Neo, leading him to doubt more of his reality and damage him emotionally. We don't know if Neo's body also underwent modifications so that the machines can better control him, but there are some things different about Neo. Neo barely aged despite being in his 90s, and there is a new jack on the back of his neck. Apparently now Neo is more machine-like than before. Another important factor in Neo's manipulation was the use of his powers against him. The Analyst exploited his bullet time ability to make Neo suffer. The last stage of manipulation is that if all else failed, he still had Trinity to get Neo back into the system, exploiting Neo's love for her and using it against him. This is the explanation for the Matrix lore, but there is a symbolic explanation behind these manipulations, which can be interpreted in the real world. There is the vandalization of our important ideas and symbols. For example, Che Guevara. This revolutionary and anti-establishment symbol became part of capitalism by being one of the best-selling faces in clothing. The system took the face of anti-capitalism and made it part of it. We've seen many social struggles end up becoming the very thing they swore to destroy.
Until now you have become the very thing you swore to destroy.
It's ironic, the system taking these important ideas and using them against you, assimilating them and turning them into a farce. This also happened with the Matrix franchise and others such as Star Wars, franchises that in their time were revolutionary. They changed the film industry so that years later, that same industry takes their innovations and turns them into an easy-to-digest format that is reused in everything. Possibly for the Wachowskis, the fact that after The Matrix came out and so many films began to imitate their style of cinematography, special effects, and story structure, became an example of how the system took their achievements and assimilated them and turned them into something trivial, forgetting what made them important in the first place. The fact that the Analyst used Trinity to make Neo return to the system symbolizes how sometimes the system can destroy our relationships because we refuse to follow the rules. Many end up going with the flow rather than risking losing their family. Why fight against a system that oppresses us if it can cost us our loved ones? This last form of manipulation is a more explicit one that we see in dictatorships when people who become detractors of the system are removed from their families, sometimes never to be seen again. They are made an example of to warn others not to go against the system. The Analyst's manipulation strategy is more complex than the Architect's and more effective to boot. It worked in keeping the majority of people in the simulation. There is also a possibility that Neo is still being manipulated by the Analyst, but that's for another video. Before we go, we want to thank you all for a great 2021. Thanks to you, we have achieved major milestones, such as becoming the #1 YouTube channel dedicated to the Matrix, and the first one to reach 100,000 subscribers. 2022 will be a difficult year, but we're going to continue making new videos and projects as we move forward to whatever is next for the Matrix. Thank you again, and have a happy new year. For Matrix Explained, please leave a like and subscribe. And thank you for visiting the Desert of the Real.